Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news video, Charlotte Flair, Tiffany, Stratton, what really happened? We've got the backstage reaction in WWE to all that SmackDown nonsense as well. Kevin Owens tells Matt Riddle he had everything and he messed it up. And the latest on Lex Luger, Sting, AEW, and the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm Andy. Andrew Pollard's off today, but it's okay. We're going to get through it. And this is the news. Okay. We're going to kick this one off by talking about Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton for quite a while, actually, because since Phil and Gareth recorded yesterday's news video, a bunch of new reports on this wild situation, shall we say, have emerged. We know by now from the initial reporting from Fightful that people went a little bit off script in that segment between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown. There was personal jabs all over the place. There was "you're 0 and 3 in marriage." There was Ludwig Kaiser's in my DMs. There was all kinds of personal jabs all over the place. It was just 5 minutes of shoot comments, I guess. I don't know. It was chaos. It was all over the place. But you're here for the news, and the first report here comes from PW Insider Mike Johnson, who corroborates that yes, this did go hella off script. Apparently, these references with Tiffany talking about Charlotte being alone and 0 and 3 in marriage. That was obviously an allusion to her divorces. She was on a talk show the other day cutting a very emotional interview. Cutting, that makes it sound like a wrestling thing. She got upset. It's understandable. And all of this stuff, all of these bits and pieces, the belief amongst PW Insider sources is that Stratton just let loose. She fired away because it was kind of like a retaliation thing for Flair eating her alive in that sit-down promo they had a couple of weeks ago. Actually, the terminology used is ate her up. In the previous face-to-face segment, which I think, yeah, okay. Now, some people believe that Tiffany was standing up for herself in a way that put the spotlight back on her. And, you know, the crowd was already very heavily in favor of her. Charlotte was getting booed really heavily, but she's the heel. She should get booed. That's how it should work. But other people felt that the segment going awry towards the end with these snipey comments didn't really help anyone. A bunch of people noted that Flair was thrown by the crowd, and she lost her sentences and her wording several times. And this allowed Stratton's shots to hit even harder. Apparently the comment about Kaiser, it was after Tiffany, that's her real life boyfriend by the way, and Tiffany rolled out of the ring. Charlotte said the thing. One source commented that this came off like a flailing shot from a boxer who didn't realize they were knocked out and that Flair was already gotten to. A bunch of these comments have already been cut from WWE's YouTube and social media uploads. They don't want anything to do with them. And the WWE tweet featuring the divorce and the Kaiser references, that's gone. That was deleted too. No word on whether or not we'll ever see this footage again. I've not gone back and looked at it on demand, but when I watched the show, SmackDown on Saturday morning, so you know, a good 8 to 12 hours after it had aired. The comments were still on there on Netflix at the time here in the UK. You guys can tell me internationally what the crack is, but yeah, look, it was an extremely messy segment. I think that is undeniable, and anyone who was witnessing this thing could have seen that it was going off the rails. I know Worked Wrestling have insisted that the divorce comment wouldn't have been in there without permission, but I don't know, man. It didn't feel like it belonged there. You'd think if something had been put in there with permission, it would be part of a scripted thing, and the reaction to it would be organic and not so much like, well, your boyfriend's in my DMs or whatever. You feel there would have been a bit more structure there if that was the case. I'll talk a little bit more about my thoughts on the segment after we've gone over our second story today, which is also on the matter. It's from Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, a little bit of a different context. Apparently WWE sources have indicated that they felt neither person was in the right for this, but Flair, Charlotte, is taking most of the heat for it. Everybody seems to have been told that it was just a segment that fell apart. Actually, it was kind of like the segment equivalent of Charlotte Flair versus Nia Jax from a few years ago, if you remember that disaster piece. One person said that it is WrestleMania season, so you can't be 100% sure either way. And if you're in wrestling, especially if you've been doing it for a while, you are taught to believe that nothing that happens on TV is real. But, sometimes it is. Someone else has noted as well, similar to PW Insider here, that Stratton, apologies, sorry, completely incorrect. A source here has indicated actually that Flair went off script first. The lines from her, and then Stratton's lines were like retaliation to all of that. When Tiffany kind of rolled out of the ring, it was... Dave says like a heel, but I mean she's the face in this, to avoid it getting worse and as kind of like a defense mechanism for all of this. And yeah, when Tiffany kind of pieced out and Charlotte said the line about Kaiser, yeah, I mean, I don't think it reflected particularly well on Charlotte in that situation. This would be kind of consistent with the idea that Flair has more heat on her than Stratton does. Now, somebody wouldn't provide any specific details on the heat, but they did note that it was on both people, and neither was considered the good guy in this situation. So there you go, bit of backstage reaction to all this kerfuffle and stuff. So first things first, with this, opinion time. Magnificent television. I mean, you can't look away from this stuff, can you? It's just like, it's a complete train wreck. You know it's kind of bad. You know it's falling to pieces, but you just can't watch it. You can't take your eyes off it as the train wobbles on the tracks, falls over, topples down, all these carriages behind it, all the goods spilling out all over the place, and the train tumbles down into the canyon before coming to a rest in a big cloud of dust and smoke and kapows and fancy noises and stuff. Yeah, you can't take your eyes off it. Incredible TV. Ultimately, I think bad for the fiction. I always think this with shooty stuff. It's tremendously entertaining, but it's not good pro wrestling storytelling. If you think about all these situations, it rarely adds anything. If you're standing there burying someone, it rarely pays off. I mean, Charlotte was just on doing the interview where she was breaking down and all this stuff, and the comments about the divorce. Look, Charlotte really ate Tiffany alive in that scripted segment the other week, 2 weeks ago when they were sitting down. Tiffany looked like she didn't have many replies in the chamber. I can believe, certainly, that Tiffany entered this segment here with a point to prove. And she felt, oh, you got me last time, but I'm taking my pound of flesh back. And look, she's kind of in a difficult situation when it comes to this stuff, right? Charlotte Flair is an assassin. She will go after you. And she said it herself. Look, I'm Charlotte Flair. I want people to raise up to this level. She's 14-time women's champion, all of this stuff. But Tiffany's in a difficult spot because either she doesn't go down to the kind of shooty, snipey, you have been divorced level, and she looks like a total doormat, like a total pushover, as she has for the whole feud. Remember that segment when Charlotte was sitting over her going, Tiffy, Tiffy? She looks like just a loser if she doesn't do something. But then if she does something, it's like, you may just have poked the bear here. You may just have made this even worse, because there's no chance in heck that Flair is going to take any of this lying down. This is a tricky situation now for Tiffany heading into WrestleMania. She might get eaten alive in that match. That's a real concern. I'm not saying it's going to turn into a shoot fight or anything like that, but there's a decent chance that Charlotte will keep receipts from this and maybe not put forth the most giving performance. We'll see. Maybe professional heads will prevail, cool heads will prevail, and we'll have a wonderful WrestleMania match. But this is a really, really, really dicey situation across the board. One of the most remarkable off-the-rails WWE segments I can remember in recent times. A crazy, crazy thing to watch play out on this major pro wrestling show. And look, I can't lie, Phil. It adds a lot of interest from my level to this match. I want to see what happens. I want to see what chaos unfolds when we get to Las Vegas. Or maybe they'll just have a match and it'll be fine. Who the heck knows? It's so wild, man. It's so wild across the board. And look, I think Charlotte Flair is someone who attracts a lot of criticism anyway. I think that getting involved in these situations doesn't help. And I think that her presence was already very domineering in this feud beforehand. She is the heel, but you have to give the babyface a little bit. It can't just be a one-sided boom, 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 especially if you're going to go to the pay-per-view and Charlotte's going to end up winning, perhaps. It's really, really difficult. But I've kind of flapped on everything I can put forth regarding this segment now. Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. I think you don't see situations like this unfolding in wrestling often. Sometimes things just don't go to plan, they don't go to script, they don't work within the fictional universe, they bleed over. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's destructive. We'll see what this ends up being. But it has certainly got the wrestling world talking. And yeah, are you more excited for the match now? Are you less excited? What do you want to happen? Who do you want to win? What do you think will happen next week? Remember, we still got 2 more episodes of SmackDown before WrestleMania, so there could be more from this. I think they'd be quite wise if they do to. I mean, Wade Barrett seemed like he was a bit of a peacekeeper in this, getting in the way, you know, go no, back off. What was going on with that squeaky voice Charlotte did? What was that supposed to? It was like a 5-year-old mocking someone in class. That was weird, wasn't it? Yeah, strange. But anyway, let's move away from Charlotte and Tiffany for now. I think we've spoken enough about that one. Let's talk about Kevin Owens. We're not talking about his injury, which sucks. It just really sucks, man. Like, who doesn't love Kevin Owens? Who doesn't love that guy? He was going to face Randy at WrestleMania. He's got a very serious neck injury. Get well soon, Kevin. This is a different story. He's basically responding to Matt Riddle, former WWE star, calling him awkward to work with. So this is an interview that Kevin did with Robbie Fox. Shouts to Robbie on My Mom's Basement. And Kevin's kind of responding to Matt Riddle here. He, at one point, on Going Ringside, he said, when I think about who's hard to maybe work with, I'd have to say Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens. It's hard to put a complete sentence together with those guys if you know what I'm saying. Kevin Owens said, shut up, basically. Here's his response from My Mom's Basement. He was asked about it. He said, it didn't take me by surprise. I did see it. It's funny because coming from him, I have nothing against him at all. He's a guy who had really amazing opportunities handed to him, like being Randy's tag team partner for so long and basically getting to ride the coattails of a legend, and he managed to screw it all up. Not because of his abilities, because he's very talented and very athletic, but because of his own attitude and poor choices. For him to say that we're hard to work with or whatever, he couldn't get a word in, there is a pretty good reason for that. You look at his track record and you look at our track record, that speaks for itself. If that's how he felt, it's fine. I can't say he's wrong when he said it was hard to get a word in. It probably was because we probably didn't let him get a word in too much because we've been around him and we work a certain way and it works. So there you go. It's not a burial, a complete, shellacking or anything like that. I think it's pretty difficult to argue with anything Kevin Owens says. I mean, this is a guy, Matt Riddle, tremendously talented. He was extremely talented on the indies before he went into WWE. Real standout in that scene on the mid-2010s, particularly 15, 16 kind of years in places like Evolve. Comes into WWE, has a good run in NXT, has a decent run on the main roster, gets the Randy Orton tag team run, of course, which got really over. It was wildly popular. It was a big storyline. You'd imagine that at some point before Randy got injured, maybe it was going to end in them splitting and feuding and having a match, and that would have been huge for Matt Riddle as well. And yet, Matt Riddle is a guy who cannot keep from stepping on rakes wherever he goes. There's some pretty serious allegations against this dude. There's some family stuff that I don't really want to dive into because there are other people involved in these things. And yeah, the guy just he steps on rakes all the time. It was the same when he was in the UFC. He used to fall out with the brass there constantly, and various other discretions. Is that a word? Misdemeanors, whatever. I don't know. Bad things along the way. And look. Dana White falls out with a lot of people, but it happened to Matt Riddle a lot. So, there you go. Kevin Owens is a gem, man. Like, to me, I don't know these people. I've never met any of these people. They're not my friends or anything nonsense. They're not acquaintances, anything like that. But I don't know. Kevin Owens doesn't seem like he's difficult to work with. He's a family man. He's got a Lambo. I'm sure that means something. But he's like universally beloved. I don't know. This seems weird. But Kevin's entitled to respond. Matt Riddle, he's in MLW. He's in various other places. His New Japan run didn't really last last year. Yeah, there you go. One guy is still there, one guy isn't. One guy has made the most of every opportunity and wrestled Steve Austin in the WrestleMania main event, and one guy did not. So there you go. That tells you a lot, I think. Right, let's wrap this one up by talking about AEW, WWE, Lex Luger, the Hall of Fame. So we know Lex Luger's going in the Hall of Fame this year. It's lovely. It's overdue. We saw the lovely video with Cody telling him, and we've all seen the stuff that Lex has been doing with that Saint DDP recently, getting up out of his chair and stuff. It's just wonderful to see. Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame is so long overdue. He's a wrestler who has been called overrated by people who don't know ball so many times that he is now actually one of the most underrated wrestlers. I think, personally, go watch him in the late 80s and the early 90s. Go watch him against Flair and people like that. A tremendous pro wrestler. Just because it didn't work out with him trying to be some Hulk Hogan replacement in WWE doesn't mean he's bad. Lex rules, and I'm glad that he's getting this opportunity. It should have happened years ago. But the big question with this induction is, are they going to get Sting? Is Sting going to be involved in this? He's Lex's friend. Lex has said, I would like Sting to induct me. The barrier is that Sting is an AEW affiliated wrestler guy. Man, he's retired now. And that would mean crossing over from AEW into WWE technically. So it's a difficult situation. But there's a little update in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week where Dave Meltzer says, as of a week ago, there had been no contact at all between WWE and AEW about Sting inducting Lex into the Hall of Fame. So I think this is a really interesting one to pick apart. I think that, obviously, if Sting was to do that, he would need Tony Khan's consent because he's contracted. And if Tony was to do it, it would be seen as a really nice gesture of goodwill to allow Sting to do this thing for his friend. But Tony has no obligation to do this whatsoever because it's technically helping WWE, and WWE has been at his throat for 5 years, 6 years, as AEW has been, nipping at WWE's heels. They're in a promotional rivalry. There's no obligation on Tony to do this whatsoever. WWE just booked a whole ass European tour around his Forbidden Door event in London. You telling me that's a coincidence? Just framing the exact same weekend? Come on, you'd have to be insane to think that's a coincidence. The other part of this is that maybe Tony might go, hey, okay, I'll let you use Sting on the Hall of Fame, but you've got to give me something. Maybe he gives them AJ Styles for a one-off match, or Cody Rhodes for an episode of Dynamite. Maybe that's too big, I don't know. Fight it out in the comments. Maybe Tony goes, hey, okay, cool, but give me your Jim Crockett tapes. Give me that library. I'll put it up on Max or something. Who knows? He might try and play a bargaining chip. Either way, I think PR-wise, Tony looks good if he lets Sting do this. But again, he's under no obligation to do it whatsoever. So, while me personally as a fan, removing all the political BS, I'd like to see it. Yeah, of course. It's Sting and Lex Luger. They're good buddies. They were linked together for a long, long time in pro wrestling. But I wouldn't expect it to happen, at least not without something going in the other way. That's how I see it anyway. But let us know what you think of all of this in the comments section below. Check out the video on your screen right now. It is the 100 greatest WWE WrestleMania moments. It's a big one, so sit down, have a drink, enjoy it. And I'll see you later. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.